Hello and welcome back to Copic in the craft room. I am putting a card together today. There's going to be a tiny bit of coloring here at the end. So if you're interested in just Copic coloring, you're going to need to fast forward and tune into the end. I'm going to do a full-size shaker card, and you kind of saw me flash through all the pieces. I've got a full card front die cut that I used from Dare to Be Artsy. And I've already punched that out. You'll notice there's a couple pieces in one corner that I haven't poked out, but I'm putting a word there. I have a piece of acetate that I have cut down to the exact shape. There's nothing magic about this particular acetate. It's just a clear plastic sheet. And I've cut it down to the same size as this die cut. And then I'm going to use a little bit of glue adhesive, so that I can really get those edges down nice and tight. And I'm going to put a little bit in some other areas along that die cut. So again, it's sitting now down nice and tight against the acetate. This part just can sit right up against each other. I like the wet glue for this just because it's going to get it right down and not kind of flop around. This part can be nice and snug. So I'm just adding little dots of glue all the way around those edges. This is a new thing for me. I'm doing some different cards that I've never done before, and some of you are like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for years. So if you're completely bored by this, you are welcome to move on. But I thought somebody might want to see the process of putting one of these together. And this is me just experimenting. So again, I'm sure there's more efficient ways and effective ways to do what I'm doing. But just so for fun, I'm going to add some foam tape on the back of this, and I cut it down and go ahead and fit it around the edges. So I'll fast forward a little bit through that so it goes a little quicker. So this is just your standard foam tape. I'm measuring it so that it fits the sides pretty accurately, and then I'm cutting it in half, kind of lengthwise. So that'll fit right around the edges. I'm trying to get this pretty, like, right along the entire edge, because if I'm going to turn that entire front into a shaker, I don't want any of those little pieces falling out. So I'm literally going in and adding little pieces where I've got holes. I do know there's a couple places that carry a narrow foam adhesive. I didn't have the time to get any. I'm leaving about a 2-inch section open without that foam adhesive, and that's where I'm going to dump, or about a 1.5 inch, that's where I'm going to dump my sequins and beads in. So then I have to figure out how to get them in. So I take a small piece of cardstock, and you could do paper, much less expensive, and I fold it over so it makes almost like a little paper funnel, but it's still flat because I folded it. And I tuck that end right into my little hole. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. In a second, you'll be able to see better. And then I've got my little mix of beads and sequins, and I'm going to pour that in to my little funnel and then kind of shake it. And it's not perfect, but it actually worked pretty well and made a little less of a mess than I would have if I had tried to get them in by hand or pouring them out of the bag into the card. So I'm picking up and throwing in a few randoms. So I've got my shaker, but now I've got this one little section that needs foam adhesive. So what I had to do, of course, knowing me, and I'm sure again there's another easy way to do this, is I took a small piece of foam, measured it so I knew exactly how much I needed, and then kind of stuffed it in. And I'm sorry this is off the video. I didn't realize that as I was recording it. Hopefully you can get a sense of what that looks like. So then we've got this little greeting, and we're going for a birthday greeting. And you can see that this was my funnel, but now I'm going to do some coloring on that. And so I've got a Y23 and a Y35. I'm starting with the Y23, and I'm flicking out from the center of the little flower. And then I'm using my Y35, and I'm flicking from the edges inward. So this isn't going to take really any mixing on my part. And then I'm flicking one little flick kind of from the bottom corner of the letters upward with that Y3-5 and a Y2-3 coming back down. Again, because I'm flicking from both sides and doing kind of a feather blend, it really doesn't need a lot of blending. And these are ones that will blend pretty happily together. And then I'm adding one more color. This is a YR68, and I just felt like it wasn't quite enough color, so this is coming up from the bottom edge, and then the outer, it's just some of those little tiny details on the petals, just to give it a little more dimension. And then the center of the flower, adding a little bit of yellow, softening that up with the Y2-3. Pretty simple. The coloring obviously today is extremely basic. And then I'm going in and fussy cutting out my flower, and I'm going to cut around the birthday as well. You can kind of see how I fussy cut. Actually, I don't do this a lot at this speed on film, but I am a right-hander, so I keep my scissors pointed away from me in my right hand, and then I'm turning my paper with my left hand, and it kind of stays in motion the whole time. So that's kind of some of the little tricks to fussy cutting if you don't do that very often. And then I'm just eyeballing this. I'm not using a cutter. I'm just going to come around the birthday, kind of right along the top edge and around the sides, kind of curving those corners just a little bit. I'm going to adhere that to that bottom left corner of the card. And then we will have a birthday card, and that full front is a shaker. So it has a lot of color and fun. And this is just a funny mix of sequins and beads that I have had literally for years, like years and years. So again, really simple card today. Just wanted to show you me putting together a shaker card, especially one with a full front with a beautiful die cut from Dare to Be Artsy. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Have a happy, colorful week.